Why in 2 Corinthians 12, what, first of all, is Paul talking about when he mentions his thorn in the flesh? You know, God, I prayed to God many times that he would take it away, and God said, you know, my grace is sufficient for you. Is that a physical ailment?
I've heard that taught so many times that Paul had an eye disease, and he prayed 3 times for God to heal him, and God said no. Of course, Paul had his revelations. He was caught up to the third heaven. He doesn't say it was him, but most scholars agree. I knew a man in Christ. He's referring to himself. And then he says, and lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me. Now, the word there for messenger in the Greek is angelos, which is where we get the word angel.
Yeah. So imagine
this
an
was
angel
an
of
entity.
Satan.
Right, an angel of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord. He didn't say concerning this sickness. He said concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of God may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasures in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake, for when I am weak, then I am strong. So he's talking about persecutions and needs, because there were times when Paul, like he said, I've learned how to do with and learned how to do without and be content in either state. Infirmities there could refer to injuries. People in times of war, they would put injured men into an infirmary. They're not sick, they're injured, okay? And Paul was stoned and left for dead. Paul was injured when people would stone him and beat him. And I think that's what he's referring to there. He doesn't use, I mean, there was a word that he could have used for sickness, but he used the word for infirmities, which could include injuries. Reproaches. People were always rejecting Paul. Everywhere he went, you know, there was trouble. People always opposing him. In needs and persecutions, in distresses. Distress would be like when he was shipwrecked. But I think it's kind of a stretch to say that Paul traveled all over the Roman Empire sick. And Paul did suffer a lot. There's no question about it. Everywhere he went, he was opposed, and he was insulted, and he was beaten. But I don't believe that he was sick. And it doesn't say that, and that's the way that people have taught it. Epaphroditus, people say, well, what about Epaphroditus? He was sick. He almost died. Yeah, but Paul said God had mercy on him. And spared his life. And then
Which
they say,
just
well,
shows that even apostles had to intercede and pray and be persistent in praying for someone's health. It wasn't this instantaneous healing all the time. That actually rebuttals another major point of a lot of people's critiques about Word of Faith.